Hey everyone, welcome back to Mando Fridays here over on the FilmSpeak channel. I'm of course your host, Griffin Schiller, and this is the show every Friday where we break down the latest episodes of The Mandalorian. We're talking season 2 this time, chapter 15 if you want to go that route, or season 2 episode 7, whatever you want to call it. I can't wait to talk about it because I think my opinion on this episode is going to be a little more it's gonna be different from what a lot of people were saying, at least just based off of the quick reactions that I saw. But I'm really excited to dive into this. It's the penultimate episode before hopefully a climactic hour-long finale. Who knows what we're going to get. But before we go any further here, be sure to jump down in the comment section and let us know your thoughts on today's episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are some of the theories you got brewing around? Did you like the return of Bill Burr? All that stuff. Let's have a great conversation down in the comment section below. As always, I'm not doing these alone. I am joined by the always incredible Elliott from Movie Files. Elliott, how's it going, man?
What's up, man? How you doing today, man? We're talking Mandalorian Chapter 15, man, and Rick Famuyiwa, man. Give this man his own series, man. I'm a big fan of his work, man.
I really am too. And I liked last season. It was a bit of a mixed bag for me with Rick, because I liked the first episode that he did, but I was not a big fan of the prison break episode. That one, to me, there was like some cool stuff in there, but it just didn't click in the way that I was hoping it would. But I'll say this, I do think this episode was basically a better version of that one. He kind of took the same structure and the same like infiltration and like getting information to people, whatever. But he paid more attention to the characters and he gave them a lot of excellent moments. And so I think that in the long run, that's why this episode just like sort of paid out, or it paid off. And so I was really happy to see him back and like kind of learn from what he did in the previous season and improve it going forward.
Yeah, but I think that's the kind of the running theme in regards to some of those directors that directed episodes from the first season. Bryce Dallas Howard, I think she went from, solid episode to an incredible episode this season. Dave Filoni, I think, can improve, and the same goes with Rick Famuyiwa. If I would love to see him maybe be maybe not the showrunner, but maybe direct a handful of episodes for the new Rangers of the New Republic. I could see that being a good way of bringing in not only Mayfield but Cara Dune. So I think that he did a really good job of really kind of taking some things that he learned from the first season and implemented it in this episode. I thought he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. I think this was, if you saw the Disney Investor Day yesterday, which it kind of like broke the internet. And so I'm like, Disney is just like, they won't let go of me. But yeah, you'll have seen that, a Rangers of the New Republic show was announced. And, I not only think it's going to be the Cara Dune spinoff, but it's going to be the spinoff for a lot of these side characters. Carl Weathers' character, Mayfield, Bill Burr's character. It's going to be them sort of like, I guess, fighting against the rise of the First Order and everything like that. So it was kind of nice to see, given that announcement, see them sort of like set the pieces up for what that series is eventually going to be. But I will say, having said that, I don't think this episode was just like another backdoor pilot. I thought it was a very important episode, not only just in terms of Din's character evolving, but learning a little bit more about Mayfield as well, and like getting to see the galaxy through his viewpoint, which I actually found to be really interesting and like pretty accurate,
Yeah, and that's something I've been loving. So just my love for Mando in general is just the idea of the ground level. We see the Empire rebuilding themselves literally from a ground level. We've seen in multiple episodes of them taking resources from different planets. In this case, they take the explosives so they can destroy another planet. And that really came and hit home in Mayfield's character. Again, I love when Star Wars brings us gray characters. They're not, representing the Empire or the Republic. They're just in it for their own goals, but then they can kind of make decisions on their own to become better people, whether that's, joining the Jedi Force or, being an Empire. So I just love that the moments that we get. And I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, the dialogue sometimes a little uneven or underdeveloped or underwhelming, but I thought the dialogue in this episode and again, that character arc that we give Mayfield and Bill Burr, man, is a great actor, man. He did a really great job in this role.
I'll tell you what, when we first met Mayfield in this episode, I was like, oh God, no, I'm not ready for this again. It's like, it's going to be another character that feels like out of, yeah, I mean, and I know we got him last season, and I wasn't really a huge fan of him last season, but I thought it was going to be like another one of those, the pilot, or not the pilot, but like the you know what I'm talking about, the woman
Patty?
from Patty. I was like, oh shit, here we go again. But it proved me wrong. Yeah. And the longer the episode went on, the more we got between Din and Mayfield, the more I was like, Bill Burr is killing it in this episode. He's like, he's got the front that he puts up when he wants to be snarky and a little bit of a dick, but it's like when you see what he went through, and especially when he infiltrates the Imperial, the refinery, which the Imperials have taken over, you see how much he just resents the Empire for what they put them through. It really seems like the grunts, the ground level guys were just disposable bodies. And like having been through some of the worst battles in the Galactic Civil War, he's able to come out on the other side and just kind of like take a step back and go, is it worth it? You know, they sacrificed a whole bunch of us for what they considered to be this cause, the greater good or whatever. And it didn't amount to anything. And now the other side of that I think was really interesting is when they were looking at the locals there. He was saying, he was like, it doesn't matter if it's the Empire or the New Republic or whatever. These people view it as, this regime coming in and
invading their land,
and uprooting their way of life. And I was like, that's really true, because we haven't gotten a lot of the New Republic in here. And that was actually one of my criticisms, is just like, what is the New Republic? What do they look like in a post-galactic Civil War world? And kind of what Rogue One planted in terms of the seeds, just like, showing that the rebellion is not as virtuous as we believe them to be. This episode sort of showed that, like, the New Republic still kind of suffers under the same issues that the Empire did. They're less oppressive. They're a little less, obviously they're less fascist, but they are still part of the problem here. And I thought that was just brilliant. I was so happy that they took moments to really like take Mayfield and be like, listen, this is a guy who's been through the shit. This is how he views the world. And it's actually pretty well founded.
Yeah, again, it goes back to just why I love the world of the TV world of Star Wars, of dive into these characters and dive into these conversations. Again, Mayfield is a perfect example of what I thought we were going to get with Finn in the new trilogy, is like, okay, they're human beings, and they're just taking orders. This is their way to survive. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're on 100% on board with the decision of the Empire, but this is the way to survive. So I love that we get those moments, those type of characters in an episode like this. So again, the writing was fantastic, and the Mayfield character, I hope that we get more from him in a spinoff series like the Rangers, or making an appearance back in Mando, because I thought that character really impressed me with this story.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. And it was another episode where it's like, I saw people saying, oh, it's just another filler episode. And I was like, no, I don't think so. It's like,
that's wild.
I saw a lot of that, and I was like, I think you guys are missing the point. Like, this was like important for the characters, because it's like, other than, what we got with Mayfield seeing the state of the galaxy, he kind of calls Mando on his shit. Something that like Bo-Katan kind of did earlier on in the episode. I was so happy that they went back to that. And Mayfield was sort of like, you live by this code. We're brought up on these different planets, Alderaan and Mandalore, and like, given where we're brought up in sort of determines what our beliefs are. But there comes a point with everyone where you throw those beliefs out the window for, out of desperation or something, bigger than yourself. And we see him sort of like looking at Mando like that. And Din, obviously we see his face in this episode, because it's like, it's a massive moment, because it's like, we now understand the importance of the child to him. It's more than just like an apprentice or someone that, or like a little kid that he cares about. It's like, no, he's become such an integral part of his life, to the point where he's willing to go back on his beliefs, go back on everything that, he thought was, he needed to do, and call out people who did the opposite. He went back on that because he knew he needed to get the information in order to save the child. And it was such a silent but powerful character moment for Din.
Yeah, I mean, it hints to the title, The Believer, and also, man, I'm hoping to see more of Pedro Pascal's face in future episodes because you really get to
Yeah.
see a lot of the emotions and kind of. I love that scene where they're, and we'll get to it a little bit later when they're in the cafeteria, but just the looks and the emotions in Pedro Pascal's eyes, and again, like you just mentioned, him now kind of breaking out of his believer, his beliefs, and becoming something different, which I think is going to be kind of the moment we'll see in next week's episode. But yeah, just a lot of great character stuff in this episode, man.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like the title is the Believer, right? Yeah. So I think that's really interesting because I feel like it kind of speaks to the fact that everyone has these causes that they believe in, but ultimately, are they the right causes?
Right.
Should you be forced to believe in something just because it's what you grew up knowing? And I think that's something that they've slowly been hinting at with Din. And this was the first episode where he really, I feel like sort of like he took a step back and he questioned, what it was that he was doing. Sort of how Mayfield, in his previous, not in a past life, but when he was under the Empire, when this horrific battle happened to him and a lot of his comrades got killed, he took a step back and he was like, "Is what I'm fighting for actually what I believe?" And we see Din do that, and fuck, I was just like, This is the character stuff I've been wanting from this show. Yes, lean into the fact that he abides by an outdated code that is not really in line with what he believes in. Yet he puts up this front and he like calls out Boba Fett on his shit. He calls out like other people, and they're all looking at him like, okay, man, all right, sure. And then this was the first episode where I was just like, yes, more of this, please.
100%, man. Nah, this was a great episode for, again, both two characters of men that had their own beliefs, and we see this show kind of really giving us a different perspective of all different type of characters, whether that's Jawas, whether that's people in the desert, and even Boba Fett. They seem to give us these different eyes and perspectives of different characters. Even this one scene where we see Mando and Mayfield make it to the digging site, and we see stormtroopers celebrating and happy, and I love that perspective of
oh my god,
such a weird feeling, but it was just a really great episode of just giving us a different POV.
Yeah, that was amazing because it was like, and like Bill Burr even makes a comment to the fact he's like, it's probably the first time in your life you've been happy to see stormtroopers, and it was like it was, and I think it, in a weird sort of way, as far as I don't know how much you can do this, but like it humanized the opposition, it humanized the ground level people, because obviously when we get to the officers and like the people who are fanatics who are ultimately calling the shots, I think we get a little bit more of the venom and like the misfound beliefs that they sort of abide by. But then you got these ground level people who are just like fighting to survive, and they see Mayfield and Din come in, and they're just like cheering the fact that they're alive. And it just I don't know, it was such an interesting way of looking at the opposition and the state of where they are right now, because we usually just view them through like just a singular lens. Like it's just like they're the bad guy and that's all they are. And this kind of took it in a different direction,
Yeah, and that's what I love about this show in particular, and what the future of Star Wars can be is, again, even the Andor series of, again, the heroes doing not heroic things, killing people and things of that nature that we saw from Andy, Cassian and Rogue One. So this is what I love about the TV platform, is just really diving into the characters, and we get a lot of that, like I said, with this episode here.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about that confrontation with the officer and like kind of the stuff that he was saying, because it reminded me of the Inglourious Bastards moment at the bar. When Michael Fassbender, it's great. It was a really well built, tension filled moment, but it also sort of like it gave a little insight into how something like the First Order could rise to power. He was like, people don't want freedom; they want someone to give them order. And stuff like that. And I was just like, oh, okay, like it's starting to make sense, because it's like in the wake or in the aftermath of the Galactic Civil War, the New Republic comes to power, and they're like sort of trying to figure out what's going on, but they're like governing in a way that's like a little too similar to the Empire. And then people are like, well, this isn't freedom or whatever. And then the First Order comes in and it's like, listen, we know what you want. We know what's best for you. We're going to offer it to you. And then they just sort of rise to power. And I don't know, what did you kind of like make of that? Did you think that was a really nice moment?
That I think his name was General Huss, if I'm not mistaken. That actor was like so perfect for that moment because, like you had mentioned, you know, there are a Mayfield character who can see their wrongs and right their wrongs and go on a different path. But then you have just the evil people within the Empire that just he just signed up. He's ready to kill. He's ready to do whatever it takes to make sure the Empire comes to rise and take over the galaxy. And just the snarky, venomous nature of that character was just so perfect. And again, just going back to just the conversation of, you know, respond, you know, I just love the whole, what we had, you know, great action set pieces in this episode, but it was, to me, it was the dialogue that drove this episode to be, you know, just so great as it was. And just that conversation that he has with Mando and Mayfield, just going back to Bill Burr being a great actor, man, whether it's his days in Breaking Bad or seeing him early this year with the film they did with Pete Davidson with The King of Staten Island. He really kind of hit those emotional beats because you saw in his head as he was talking about the operation that went down and losing 5,000, 10,000 men. And he gets that redemption to, I love kind of the Han Solo moment where he shoots him first. I just love that moment within that cafeteria area, which is really great stuff.
Yeah. No, 100%. I thought that was like it was sort of like one of those things where it's like the more he talked to him, you could see him. He was just like, no, I'm going to kill him. And then he goes through with it and he doesn't take a step back and like, oh God, what have I done? Sorry. I just kind of lost it. He's like, no, this is sort of what I need to do. And then he just starts.
This is the way.
Yeah, right. This is the way. He kills everyone, and then they eventually make the escape. Boba Fett saves them, and then he takes that rifle and he just blows the whole place up. And he's like, and just, I don't know. That was just like such a powerful character moment for him, and just like a great way of showing where he was and how the events sort of like turned him into the person he is now. You know, I don't know. It was just like I think, you know, while a lot of people, you know, I understand why people would like last week's episode because it was like really action packed and it was like super fan service and it was like, oh, Boba Fett is in armor again. And, you know, I've already said what I'm going to say on that episode. And I feel like they're going to be less inclined to like this week's episode because it's more dialogue heavy. It's more slower moments. There is some action in there, but they take moments to pause and such. But I think that all of it is super important into building up to the finale and like, you know, the people who work with Din and all that stuff. So I don't know. That's why I think that this is one of the better episodes where it was like balanced on both fronts, because when we get to the action is great. There's like a Mad Max chase scene in this thing. Like it is so cool.
I love that action set pieces because it had, we knew they were going to make it obviously, but it does have some stakes. It creates that tension where it kind of reminded me a little bit of, you know, you just mentioned Mad Max meets Speed, where we know if Mayfield presses the brakes, the pirates are going to come. And, you know, obviously Din, which we'll get into that here, just the fact that he's a badass character. He doesn't need his Beskar armor. We get to see him in his hand-to-hand combat, but you know, if Mayfield speeds up the explosion, the vessel will blow up. So I just love how they kind of created that scene. And again, like you just mentioned Mad Max, it definitely had those vibes with the pirates trying to get on board. So it was just, even though we mentioned, you know, I thought the dialogue and the character driven moments were great, but there were some really good action set pieces. And that was one that I was really impressed with.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned Speed because I forgot about that whole point where it's like if you go too slow it'll blow up, or if you go too fast it'll blow up, and it was just like that was sort of like a nice callback to that. But even like the moments where he's fighting, where like Din is so used to being invincible, where it's like you see like he's like taking care of this one guy and this guy's coming up behind him and he's not even addressing the fact that he's there, and then like he takes a crack at his armor and it shatters and he's just like, oh wait, I don't have Beskar on. Yeah, right. So like those were really cool moments. Like just for him, it's like having to adapt how to fight and all that stuff. And so that was all excellent stuff. What did you make of Cara Dune and why am I blanking on her name?
Frennick.
Frennick. Yeah. What did you make of their sort of moments?
Again, it shows you the different skill set that this show kind of highlights what people are good at. You know, Mando hand-to-hand combat when he has his Beskar. You know, we see Cara Dune and them having their marksmanship. So I thought that was really awesome. And again, it just really kind of shapes the idea of her being I don't know if she's going to be the lead of this new Ranger show, but it lets you know that she can be a big key part of whatever that team that they assemble with that show. But I thought that was really cool in regards to I love how the show kind of gave you Boba Fett last week, and he was involved heavily in this episode to a certain extent, but I love that he was in the background, and then these two other characters kind of have a little bit more shine and show them their ability. So I thought that moment when they were just sniping people, especially when Mando just has that faith in Cara Dune and Fennec to have their back. So I love that. I just love how the show, and again, goes back to this Rick Famuyiwa bringing in this kind of dirty dozen, inglorious bastard kind of camaraderie within a team that they trust each other on this mission. So I just love that aspect of this mission within this episode and the trust that the characters have within each other.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think out of all the directors, Rick Famuyiwa has like a real ability for balancing teams. Like he knows how to when this group of ragtag guys are going on this mission, he knows when to cut to the other guy or to the other players, and like how to create moments between characters. And I don't know, I'd like to see him do more stuff like this. And I agree with you. I think putting him as like a lead director in like a Rangers of the New Republic kind of series would make a lot of sense, just given his proven ability with these like ensemble episodes. But yeah, going back to Boba Fett, I was really happy that he was in the background because like, listen, I still have my gripes with the character and the fact that I don't really think he's a person in more of, he's like a face squad kind of guy, you know, like you just break him out because he looks cool. He doesn't have a whole lot below the surface. And I'm just sort of like, all right, cool. Yeah, he's there. But I actually kind of liked him more in this episode than I did last week because they weren't trying so hard. He was just a member of the team, you know? And like, there was like that cool nod back to Attack of the Clones with the seismic charge or whatever.
Oh, that was awesome.
Great stuff. Awesome.
Have
awesome
we ever
Slave
seen
One set pieces.
the Slave One like inside the ship? Like that one scene when they're showing like the rotation of the inner workings of the ship, to me was just like, I don't know if I remember ever seeing that in one of the, I don't know, maybe it was an Attack of the Clones, but I just thought that was so cool, the inner mechanics of this ship.
Yeah, not from the inside, I don't think. We've definitely seen like how Slave One can sort of like maneuver from the outside. But but yeah, I agree with you. That was like a cool little thing. We get a peek behind the hood of the car, for lack of a better phrase. Yeah. But yeah, no, Boba Fett was using the right amount because I think it would have been too easy for them to just like go, put him a little bit more front and center and have him do the mission with Din. But like even Boba Fett says, he's like, I think they'd recognize me, guys. Like I used to be a part of
I love that line. That was actually like a really good, clever, like funny line to me.
Yeah.
I love that moment. And it goes to show, we talked about it last week about which they didn't announce a Boba Fett show last week or yesterday. I like this capacity of the character. I don't think he needs his own show. I think he's a great kind of secondary character like we saw within this episode and the week before. I don't think he can carry his own through line, even though I know they were going to make a movie about him, but I think that became what The Mandalorian is. So I like the way that they're using Boba Fett in this series, and I hope they continue that versus, again, giving him his own spinoff show.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just think he works better with other characters when he's a supporting member. Not every supporting character is designed to carry their own film or their own series. And I think Boba Fett is one of those characters, and this really shows that he works well when he's just like he's doing his thing in the background. Like I would never want a Captain Rex spin-off series, or like a Commander Cody whatever spin-off series or something like one of the clones. And I think it's because they work so well when they're in group settings. And I think Boba Fett is in the same sort of camp where it's like he's cool, guys, but he's not someone who's going to carry an entire story by himself. And so this to me was like, it was cool. But I got to ask,
Yeah.
he polished his armor, man. He did a spray paint job there. Like, what was that about?
I think, again, going back to this particular show and how Jon Favreau, which, by the way, Jon Favreau didn't direct, or I should say write this episode, nor did Dave Filoni. It was actually, again, my love for Rick Famuyiwa. It seems like he knows Star Wars universe. He wrote this episode. And again, I love that the attention to detail that it kind of shows Boba Fett's character from last week to this week. He takes pride in that armor from his dad. He cleans it up. He shines it up.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the times that we've seen him in previous live action iterations is all beat up. It's dirty, but he takes pride in his armor and that he has it back. And he kind of has this second chance to give his honor to his father. So I kind of love that moment that he kind of cleaned it up and it was nice and shiny and it fit really well. So I love that kind of little character detail.
Yeah. I'll say this. I don't feel like that tracks with, like, it tracks with the character that they've now established, but I don't feel like it fits Boba Fett, because it's like every time we've seen Boba Fett prior to this episode, the armor's always beat up, it's tattered, it's battle damaged. Like, that to me was just like a weird decision. Like, it's cool that he's finally got clean armor for the first time in the history of the character.
But a new leaf. He's turning a new leaf, Griffin. That's symbolizing that.
Man, that Sarlacc pit must have really done a number on him. Yeah. Again, I want to hear more about his experiences in there. I want to, like, see how he evolved as a person. I just don't feel like we got that. But
I wonder if we'll get that, because I know they had like this What If series that they announced, the animated like kind of vision series. I wonder if that's like the opportunity to have these smaller stories of what happened to Boba Fett.
Yeah, the visions.
And if they have like these little kind of what if little vignettes of these characters, that can be something to explore, or in probably a book or a novel. They probably have that somewhere out there.
Yeah. It'll. I don't know. I mean, we'll get it in his series, because his series they're shooting it right now. Yeah, right. It's inevitable. But it was just sort of like a weird sort of thing. But I gotta say, it did sort of blend nicely with his black robe, which I thought looked so bizarre last week. Like it looked like just a fan costume, last week, and like this week, at least they darkened the armor, made it like matte colors or whatever, and then it sort of blended in. I was like, okay, I can kind of get behind the new look here, but yeah, I don't know, man. Boba Fett is just like, he's a weird character for me in this sort of thing. It's just, I don't know. I want to like him. I really do, man. I really do. But it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of funny the way that he's been treated. I'll say this, and I'm curious if you share the same opinion. I think last week and this week's episodes should have been packaged into one episode, because they really go hand in hand. And I think if you package them into one episode, sprinkled in a few moments with for Boba Fett's character to give him more to do, then maybe just a couple other like slower team moments, I think that would have been like an incredible, just like singular episode, because like they're both 30 minutes. Throw them together. Like, it's not like it went and did like a completely different story this week. It was the continuation of last week, but in a way where I felt it would have meshed more as just like one episode, Yeah, no, that does bring up a good point. I think they did want to kind of singular have that, stand out Boba Fett, kick ass. This is what he's been up to, kind of redemption story of itself. And they want to kind of, again, leave this episode for Mando's growth and not kind of conflict or, give too much going on with the character. So I think I prefer the separation, but I can see where you're coming from, though. It would have been like a nice kind of handoff from one episode to the next. But I think I kind of like the separation between the two episodes. Yeah, and like I don't hate it. I still don't like last week, but I feel like it would have made the action heavy, just sort of like lack of narrative that was going on last week, which really did feel like they had to fill time and like, okay, we've got this like 16-page script. Let's just like scrap something together, get Robert Rodriguez and throw it together. Or just, there we go. Which to me, at least, definitely felt like that. I feel like had you paired that with what we got this week, I would have been less annoyed with, what sort of happened in last week's episode. Still would not have been crazy about like Boba Fett and like how they showed him in action, but like, I think I would have been able to stomach it a little bit more. So I don't know. That's just like sort of my opinion, just like a weird sort of thing I was thinking about, but it is, I don't know. I guess it does kind of deliver a nice 1-2 punch for those who did like last week. But I guess the only question left is like, what's gonna happen next week, man? The finale. We get
The
to see
finale,
Moff Gideon.
yeah, man, we're gonna see Moff Gideon, and I hope Jon Favreau he opened up the season with a bang. I hope he ends the season with a bang with him being the director. But I think first off, I guess we didn't acknowledge that the child wasn't involved. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first episode of The Mandalorian that the child was not in one scene. Am I mistaken in that?
He was in the season premiere of season 1. You might be right.
I think this is the first time.
No Baby
so
Yoda.
I guess how did you take that without seeing the little guy? Were you
I was fine with
the
it.
absence of the character? Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, they didn't need to do like cutaways to like Baby Yoda's reaction or like playing with whatever. I was like, oh no, this
eating
is
eggs or
yeah, right. I was like, oh, this is kind of refreshing. We get a break from Baby Yoda. But if you're one of those people who watches the show solely for Baby Yoda, you're probably not going to like this episode. So.
Down.
Yeah, right.
No, but I mean, again, and of course, his essence is still there because we know that's why Din's on the mission to get the child back. But it was kind of unique not being able to see the child. But yeah, next week, man, Moff Gideon. I love that callback to the message that Moff Gideon gave Mando last season about what you have is valuable to me, and like the way he phrases his words, like he calls it, but Mando says, it's his son essentially at this point. Season. So I love that kind of callback of that message that he gave Moff Gideon, and just the shock of Moff Gideon there kind of being caught off guard. So next week, man, I expect to see some really awesome stuff. A dark saber versus Mando's Beskar spear that he got a couple weeks ago, because we see that it can take on a lightsaber when we saw the Mandarin fighting Ahsoka. So I hope to see that. Who knows who's going to return next week? Will Bo-Katan come in and help him out to get the child back? Are we going to see who the child made that call to? Are we going to get a little cut scene to who that Jedi may be? The Luke Skywalker rumor has been really hot these last few weeks.
I sure hope not. I sure hope it's not Luke.
It would be a really interesting call if they bring him in. It's like, yet again, the Skywalkers are involved. But no, man, I'm really excited to see what next week has to hold. I would love to see Jon Favreau direct the episode. I would love to see a change in the child in regards to him embracing the dark side more. Because again, as Ahsoka told him 2 weeks ago, the separation, this kid's so attached to you. What does it look like when we see the child? I don't know what the timeline would be, if it's like a matter of days as they've been separated, or if it's a matter of weeks as they've been separated. They've been looking for Moff Gideon's ship. So it'll be really interesting to see the set of mind, the mindset that the child is in, and if there is a more of a darker side to him. But I don't think they're going to kill off Moff Gideon next week. I think Carlos Esposito said he's going to be back next season anyway. So
yeah, you don't cast someone like Giancarlo Esposito in a role if you're going to kill him off in your second season. It's just it's not right. I do see some people in the chat saying that the child was technically in a flashback, and I was like, okay, well, we will technically count it, but like, he wasn't in the episode, so whatever.
The flashback. What flashback did we get in this episode? I don't remember a flashback.
When it was like cutting back to like the moments with the child, I think when he was I think Din was reflecting about it. I forget what I forget where it was exactly in the episode. Watched it so late, but I mean, anyways, but yeah, I mean, basically the kid, he wasn't in the video, so right. Anyways, guys, again, before we close this thing out, be sure to let us know your thoughts and opinions on today's episode down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Theories, thoughts, gearing up for the season 2 finale next week. Let's have a great conversation down in the comment section below, or in the chat if you're watching us live. All right, Elliott, closing thoughts on today's episode.
Hey, man, Rick from you. I've been saying it this whole recap here. Give this man more Star Wars content, because I think he really knows what he's doing in this world. He does a great job with the characters. He shoots action well. And I think, again, whether it be the series that we got announced yesterday or something in the future, I think he's like the Deborah Chow kind of in the Star Wars universe, where they, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have an all-star in their hands. So I hope we get more of him in the future. Mayfield, man, I was really impressed by that character development within, like you mentioned, 30 minutes. And this is a character that we're meeting for the second time, and just seeing the growth from last season to this season. That character really kind of getting into his psyche was great. The stuff with Mando was fantastic. The moment of his helmet being taken off, Pedro Pascal is a very great actor, and I love the impressions and the works of the eyes and the impression that we get in this episode. So I think that this is kind of maybe this is the way for next season. We're going to see less of the helmet from Mando. I love the stuff that we get there, and I was really impressed with this episode, man. I'm really looking forward to hopefully a home run of a finale come next week.
Yeah, let's pray that it's like an hour long or something like that.
Fingers crossed.
Because it still blows my mind that the first episode of this season was an hour long, and like some of the other episodes here, which are like more character heavy, are just like, huh. I'm like, all right, that's an odd decision, but all right, we'll roll with it.
As you bring that up, I'm actually I wonder what last year's finale was in regards to the time. I'm trying to pull it up here.
I think it was like a 30 minutes or something like that.
Redemption was actually 48 minutes last year, and based on that was the longest episode of last year. So maybe history repeat itself, and we have the finale being maybe one of the longer episodes for this season.
God, I hope so. There's a lot that sort of needs to be wrapped up, and I'm expecting there to be some sort of like dark saber battle. I mean, I don't know, maybe Bo-Katan like comes in or something, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, in terms of this episode, absolutely loved it. One of my favorites of the entire season for sure. It really did an excellent job of balancing character moments, really weighty and thoughtful character moments. I might add, not just like, little bits, but like actually genuinely great character moments with some fun, exciting action. It was a great team-centric episode. I actually enjoyed what they did with Boba Fett in this episode, along with the rest of the supporting cast. And Mayfield especially really shines in this episode. Bill Burr knocks it out of the park, really delivering a solid and nuanced performance on many different levels. I think it's a great look at the galaxy through the lens of someone who's just like really... he's been burnt by the power structure, and he's like really cynical about it. And I think the way he's feeling is justified and it's accurate. And I'd like to see more of that exploration. I hope we get it in the Rangers of the New Republic show, if that's where they're heading with that, or if we just get to see more of it in Mandalorian. I don't know. It just, to me, that's where the show is sort of hitting that sweet spot, is when it's having a larger conversation about the aftermath of the Galactic Civil War and the difference of beliefs, paired with this exciting action, and then obviously getting to see that trickle down into Din is great. So again, love this episode. Want to see more from Rick Famuyiwa. So again, guys, let us know your thoughts and opinions on today's episode down in the comments section below. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to the FilmSpeak channel so you don't miss out on our big climactic discussion on the Mandalorian season 2 finale next week. And then if you want to get caught up on some of our past recaps, we have a playlist probably over there, or at an end card or something like that, where you can check out the rest of all the conversations we've been having about the Mandalorian this season. Elliott, thank you as always for joining me on here. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, man, I love these discussions with you every week, man. So thank you for having me on. But yeah, guys, you can find me here on YouTube at Movie Files, as well as on Instagram at Movie Files, and on Twitter at Movie Files Live. And I'm excited for next week, man. Hopefully it's a home run, man. I hope it's a good season finale.
I think we're going to get something great. It's been building up to it, so I'm fingers crossed. It's an hour long. But definitely go give Elliott a follow. And then lastly, guys, be sure to like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Just search FilmSpeak, and then if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, thank you so much for joining us on this review and recap of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode number 7. We'll catch you back here for the finale next week. Until then, take care.